So you've started a career in cybersecurity. Sounds pretty easy, right? Or maybe you feel stuck, looking at an impossible mountain to climb with no clue of how to find your footing. But fortunately, you've stumbled across Scaling the Wall, a podcast that breaks down the cybersecurity journey into manageable steps. I'm your host, Will Brooks. In each episode, I'll be your guide as we interact with others who are living and breathing cybersecurity every single day. We'll hear their stories, learn from their experiences, and gather those golden nuggets of wisdom they've picked up along the way. No jargon, no hype, just real talk about what it takes to build a successful career in this exciting field from those who have paved the way. So grab your gear and get ready to climb as we scale the wall of cybersecurity together.
I've been in the channel for a long time, and like, if it's all good news all the time, there's a lot of room for concern, because it's like you need to understand where the pockets are, because we are going to let MSPs shape this product, because one of the big things for us is that we are building this tool so that we can represent the MSP community and shape the insurance industry in the way that they underwrite. To do that, we've got to build something that's useful for them. It's got to be something that makes their lives easier and makes the process more effective, right?
Yeah.
What are some big takeaways for you? Like, what are you feeling after a few days?
I sat in a couple of the boardrooms. We've done 3, right? Sat in a couple of them. And I think it was the most recent one we did on, it was this morning, which would be, just today, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Totally lost in time. Conferences starting on a Saturday totally throws off my calendar. But Gene said something in the boardroom that really got me excited, because, and it was specifically geared towards how MSPs, there's a lot of security controls out there. There's a lot of approaches to security,
Right.
a lot of focus.
Right.
But the people who looked at what FifthWall was hoping to build, and the minds that came together to say we can build this,
Yeah.
they looked at it and said, "This is the next thing."
Yeah.
Like, this is there. I'm backing this because there's legitimacy to what's going on, and just hearing from some people how excited they are about a tool like this. Because I had a conversation with an MSP last night on the showroom floor, and he came up to me, and the first thing he brought up was the classic thing you hear from a lot of MSPs, that we were, even when FifthWall got started in the MSP space, we were talking about IBEX, and we're like, we'll build real-time security control data on how that's going to save your clients X amount of dollars. It's a nice idea, but when you really get into the realities of the insurance industry and how every carrier is operating in its own claim space, and they're saying, I'm rewarding security based on my own experience, There's no standardization, that allowed us with a tool to think bigger. Right. So an MSP on the show floor is like, oh man, what would be awesome is if I had that, the IBEX mentality, right?
Yeah.
Of getting those direct, how I can save my clients money. I was like, you go up to a CFO and you say, hey, you could save $4,000 on your policy by implementing my 20,000 EDR tool.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, that's not a lot of savings. But if you say, hey, implement this MDR tool, it's going to cost you $20K for the year, but you're potentially saving yourselves from, look at this tool showing $4.5 million of loss.
Yeah, it's a liability.
Yeah.
What, for you, I think something I'm really curious about, like, you have been the most constant representative of the FifthWall brand in the channel. And we've unveiled a new brand, UKON.
Yeah.
What's that experience been like for you?
I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
It allows you to speak a little differently on things.
Yeah.
I think when I got started in the face side of the channel, the brand side of the channel, I remember sitting down with Wes Spencer, and he was like, dude, just pick your niche and
Right.
go with it.
Right.
And so my niche was, all right, I'm going to be the cybersecurity guy from the lens of insurance.
Yeah.
But because FifthWall is the insurance wholesaler, it always kind of felt like you could never separate yourself from being just the insurance guy.
The insurance guy, yeah.
And UKON, I feel like, creates the ability to truly merge the worlds.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting for me, because now it's not saying, oh, we're this wholesaler who has access to a bunch of insurance carriers. No, we're a marketplace that you as the MSP are going to get involved in, and the way that you do security and the way that you protect your clients is going to influence the insurance world. And for me, that's exciting, because it is a true blend of the two worlds.
Absolutely. And just generally about the brand, right? So not just the product, like how do you feel about a new brand, new colors, new logo?
Yeah.
Like it's exciting, right? Because
This is my favorite color.
Yeah.
So it's this weird blend between blue and green, and I don't know what you call it. What did you say it's called? Chasm.
We are maniacally focused on the word chasm when we describe this color.
Well, it actually when I saw the initial like unveil of the logo and the colors, I mean the Dune lettering, which is Dune's amazing.
Yeah.
But honestly, the color is one of my favorite colors, and it's not that like piercing blue that was a little more playful. This feels a little more classy. You know, it says, "Hey, we're upgrading here."
Yeah.
Not to say that we're not going to be playful. I mean, there in the MSP world, there's still that sense of fun that comes with even your controls, and that's why I love the Dune motif too. Right?
Yeah.
It's like Dune is awesome. It's cool. But it's serious.
Yeah.
And we're doing something serious, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the brand's trying to represent a different it's a different focus now, right? It's a different energy. Like you can have a really elegant and sleek and sexy brand and still be a fun company, right?
Yeah.
Like that's more about the culture than it is like the way you're branded and the way you're representing the brand. And so like I think that evolution, it's more important like how we culturally show up than what the brand looks like. You know, you don't have to have playful colors and playful costumes to be a really cool culture.
Yeah.
Because it's more important how our employees show up and how we help our partners and how we help the ecosystem than like what our brand looks like. I want the brand to stand for something that's, you know, elegant, important, you know, focused, etc.
I think I feel it most now strongly because obviously we just launched it, so it's exciting, but there's something to the fact that we were at Right of Boom 2 weeks ago as FifthWall, and then we went to xChange,
right? And
we have UKON, and because it was so rapidly in succession like that, you felt the old way and the new way.
Absolutely.
Right. So what are your feelings there compared to a couple weeks ago when we were at Right of Boom? And the conference at Right of Boom I think was fantastic, but the specific to FifthWall and the way you feel like we engaged the conference then and now.
It was a very different transition. We were like, I mean, you and I talked about it, right? Like, if it Right of Boom, like we were kind of in that final phase of like just being FifthWall, but we were talking about what we were going to unveil here, right? Like we were starting to describe the technology, describe the process, and I remember like the reactions were so strong, and I was like, man. And I'm you know, I'm a revenue guy, I'm a sales guy. It's like when you have that strong a reaction without any visuals, it's like that is such a good antidote. So I was so excited for this, but it was like Right of Boom was a really good validation for us as to like oh man, like we're not even showing anything yet. We're just describing what we're about to do and teasing something we're about to go through. And it's like not showing any new colors, not showing any names, not even talking about new names, just saying we're gonna create and launch some tech that changes this process for you. And everyone's like, that's a game changer. I'm super excited. And it's like now we're doing it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. It's really exciting, and it was very it's weird because when we started talking about UKON before it was even UKON, right? It's just this idea.
Yeah.
Back as Gene said in the boardroom this morning, he said, we didn't even have funding yet. Our funding hadn't even come through. We were already talking about this, right? Like it was coming, but it wasn't there yet. That kind of mindset. And then you get to Right of Boom, and you're like, okay, we know this tool is launching, but it's still conceptual to everyone we're talking to.
Right.
Because we didn't have anything to show them. And then literally 2 weeks later, it's, hey, here it is.
Yeah.
You know, and it is a different energy. It's exciting. It's not a... So Wilson, right, reached out to me last night. He had major FOMO because he was at the first IT Nation we ever went to. And I remember we got there on the main stage. I don't know how Reed and Wes worked this out, but on the main stage, you had ConnectWise, and they were saying, this is how ConnectWise does their thing. And then it was like, plus FifthWall. And we're like, what is... And then we got tons of people coming to our booth, and it was exciting. It was new. It was like, who are these guys? What's going on? And I was like, this awesome experience. And then over the next couple of years, you got more players in the space.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was this is what's really cool, man, is obviously there was this noticeable movement of saying, cybersecurity and cyber insurance are going to have to play off one another.
Yeah.
Like this can't be a separate us versus them mentality like some
Right.
people want to make it. And you're seeing that in the carrier space where some are creating their own MSSPs, which is making a lot of people here angry, right? But over the course of the past 2-3 years, we got started, we were like, oh, we're doing something new. And then you had all these other things just starting to point towards the fact that those worlds are going to collide, they are going to merge somewhere. And UKON now, a couple years later, it feels like we're actually at a place now where, oh shoot, this is real. Something's actually going to happen about this. It's not theoretical anymore.
What's your take on some of the trends in the carrier space, like some of the movements of launching product, launching their own MSSPs?
Yeah.
And second question to that is like, what do you think UKON has the opportunity to represent as a part of that?
Sure. So there's two things. I think from what I've experienced on MSP Reddit, on Discord, on different forums, conversations, phone calls I've had, MSPs are a little frustrated about it because they're saying, well, this seems like a conflict of interest. Oh, they're putting it under their same name but a different LLC. Like, what are the carriers doing? Like, it feels kind of like a weird business ploy. There is the reality that some carriers really don't like MSPs because they think they're the problem. That's, again, they don't understand them, which is something UKON's looking to fix the gap and say, actually, MSPs are the most equipped to provide the security needed to not only lower the risk of your insureds, but also give the data to show what's working in real time, right? Like, if a carrier goes and starts their own MSSP, they're probably going to get some people who are like, oh yeah, I'll get an insurance policy, great, and I'll save on my insurance policy to get your security. But that's going to keep that type of business strategy is only going to prolong the reality that every carrier is working independently.
Absolutely.
And that's one of my biggest issues. Is it up until UKON, right? The way that every carrier is getting their data is from their own loss history, their own application process, their own underwriting data, the actuarial data that they're slowly building that doesn't exist yet, right? And it's all individual carrier focused. But UKON's like, let's disrupt that. Let's change that. Let's make it. Let's look at the industry as a whole and give you that picture. And that's exciting. So that's one thought. The other thought is with carriers starting their own MSSPs, I don't look at it as personally working with a lot of these carriers. I don't see it as a malicious move. Like, I don't see them saying, "Oh, we're taking down the MSP industry." I see it as, we know what works for us in terms of security, and we want to make an easy pathway for our clients to get that, so that we will take on the risk. So it naturally makes sense for us to offer these things because it just makes it faster. And they're looking at ways of saying, we want to write insurance, and we're going to be able to write insurance faster and easier if we know those controls are in place. Currently, with the state of things, the only way we're going to know those controls are in place is if we have an MSSP that does it for us. We're now saying, hey, we're going to feed you all that information on a regular basis so you know exactly what to look for. We're going to have partners who are going to be able to make sure those things are in place. Like, it's going to totally change the system. I think it's more about a speed and ease of access thing.
Absolutely.
But again, they're looking at it from their own individual perspective.
I could agree more. I think, my take is, first of all, large organizations and insurance carriers fall victim to this all the time. Anytime they make heavy investments in vertical integration on the supply chain, it's a very hard and unsustainable investment. And so, first of all, I don't think it's gonna completely disenfranchise this whole entire industry.
No,
it's gonna be noisy. It's gonna be inconvenient, but it'll actually probably convert some non-engaged customers to the IT channel, right? So it'll probably have a long-term impact that'll be positive, and it's not going to stick.
No.
The other part of it is kind of where you hit. It's like it's single carriers trying to make adjustments, and instead of them going for integration and partnerships, they're trying to integrate by building their own technology, by operating their own services. They're missing the mark. Where this industry needs disruption is in partnership in the ecosystem. And that's actually one of the things that gave me a lot of conviction when we were finalizing our fundraising for Series A, was a few of these carriers launching their own EDR and launching those services. Because I'm like, someone needs to represent the billions of dollars that doesn't have engineering teams and can't afford to launch an MSSP because there's a whole ecosystem of businesses and there's a whole ecosystem of underwriting that needs to be represented by the middle of the market. And the only way you do that is by creating a marketplace so that those things are represented equally.
Yeah.
Right? Like the IT channel needs a way to participate in a healthy way. And then you need to create a marketplace so that they have visibility and they have an equal opportunity to present themselves. And so it actually gave me a lot of clarity and conviction around how we were positioning our investment. And so like I completely agree with you. Like this singular focus instead of like an open partnership mentality on the engineering side of a lot of these carriers, it'll be an inconvenience for our partners, but I think it actually gives us a really good opportunity for us to build a community and represent that to our 50s experience. Because as we build some momentum and reputation as a growth engine for the insurance market, we're going to have a lot to say and a lot to do on behalf of the MSPs.
You know, it just got me thinking. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Insurance is a fairly archaic industry, in the sense, not archaic in the sense that it's outdated. It's actually extremely necessary even today, right? Like the concept of insurance, though, itself is extremely old. I mean, I think I did a looking into it, and like you could even look at like the OG like Code of Hammurabi as like early insurance, like depending on how far back you want to go, right? There's that whole mindset. But how do you see UKON stepping into an industry that for so long has operated in a particular way? How do you see that, like carriers looking at that and saying, no, I want to utilize this?
You know, that's a great question. So one of the things I learned from the founder of Pack City, John Street, is, you know, when you're looking for places where disruption's needed, you kind of have to look for groups, not one group, but groups of people that are dissatisfied. Because when you have fragmentation in a supply chain, and you look at two sides of that fragmentation, so where it's fragmented, and you find out why there's frustration on two different sides of that fragmentation, that's where solution needs to fit. And what I noticed very quickly is that there was an equal amount of frustration from the software world, right, and the IT ecosystem, IT channel, right. Everyone's frustrated with the process, lack of transparency, the inconsistency, you know, the lack of follow through, the claims process, all this stuff, instant response, all of it, right. Under like everything, they're just like, what is the rhyme and reason behind all this, right? And the insurance carriers like, we don't understand the data, we don't understand the evolution of the new tools, the threat vectors, like all this stuff. So we don't know what to base our underwriting on, right?
Yeah.
And so there's just a bunch of, you know, really influential companies with a lot of money behind them. They're just sitting there frustrated. And when I started to really hone our message and opportunity for UKON, I was like, that's really where you have an opportunity to disrupt, is when you can build a technology that bridges those two gaps, right? Because that's disruption in a bottle, is where you're like, look, you find some frustration, let those two people shape the way you build the product, right? So what was important for us is, you know, especially investors, the investor community that backed FifthWall and backed UKON, it was important for us to find a company that had a history with the right carriers. So FifthWall being, you know, the first dedicated cyber insurance wholesaler in the United States, that history was essential because that gave us supply, that direct access to over 50 plus carriers. That told me immediately that we would never have problems placing any of our customers. That our access to the market, that we'd always be able to place the customer's risk. Yeah. And that was essential because like we've got to have supply in, you know, referencing a different supply chain. And so that was really important because now we could go listen to what everybody needed, all the different constituents, and we could build technology to solve the problem. And so we've got that, right? Like we have all the history of FifthWall. We brought some brilliant minds in and some financing. And now we get to build technology based on what the communities need to make them more profitable, more efficient in the way they advise the consumer. Because it's all about bringing the consumer with education, which starts with awareness, bringing them through the process, bringing them through the supply chain.
Yeah. You know, as you were talking, I thought of one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to paraphrase it and then adapt it to the situation, is the actual quote is effectively, your calling in life, your place in life begins where your great joy and your passion meets the world's great needs. So like either world or your community or whatever. And it just makes me think from a business perspective, what UKON is looking to do is it's not just, oh, we're here to make insurance easier. Like that's a need, but is it like the great need?
It's a tagline.
No, the great need is, first of all, we are a bunch of insurance nerds at FifthWall. We're also tech nerds. That's what makes it so fun. But the great need is exactly what UKON's looking to do. It's that insurance and cybersecurity need to work together, and they don't. They just don't. It's this. I mean, one of the things I'm excited about with UKON too. We've been talking a lot about MSPs, but the fact that it's going to be accessible to agent partners, they're going to be able to utilize it, because I know a lot of agents who, when they see the security control lists, they're just like, oh my gosh, I have to have this conversation again.
They don't know what to do.
Either they don't know what to do, or they're just like, this is not what. Just like an MSP saying, I don't want to fill out this form. I didn't sign up for this. The agent's like, I didn't sign up for this. I got 10 other lines of business I'm trying to sell.
That they understand way easier than they do this. And so we shortened that that edification process for both parties, right? Like letting everybody kind of stay in their lane and work alongside the nucleus, which is the consumer. Let the consumer be the star of the show with their profile, right, and their data points being consistent. And then let everybody advise them. That's really the basis of this. Is like take out the complexity, and at the end of the road is the carrier, and we start to regulate the way that they see and underwrite risk. We create transparency. That's why we are really unveiling. We're unveiling a lot of stuff, but we're unveiling the idea behind the UKON index. That's a long-term vision, because as we scale this up and we build community behind it, and we build a group of really passionate MSPs, agents, and customers, eventually will represent something strong enough to change the underwriting process. So carriers won't be able to blindly base their underwriting practices on an aggregate statistical model. It'll be a specific statistical model, which is what they do for all other lines of coverage. And we can represent that in a really powerful way because of what MSPs do so well, and have done so well for decades. That's what we're changing. That's the big disruption here.
That's what's, I mean, even there, like one of the things that excites me about that is you've got a couple of carriers who are very cyber folk, like not that they truly understand cybersecurity, but they understand that something's got to change about the industry, right? They're doing things, they're taking steps to say something's got to change.
They're investing,
They're investing. But I have some friends who are underwriters at other companies. They're cyber underwriters. But they're cyber underwriters at insurance companies that write all lines of business, not just cyber. And that's some of the biggest uphill. As underwriters, it drives them crazy because they have, they have people above them who aren't, I'm not talking underwriters now, I'm talking about like CEOs of companies and insurance companies who have, been their career CEOs at an insurance company. They've seen all lines of insurance. Now cyber's on the scene, like, we're not gonna put our eggs in that basket. It's too complicated. It's too much work. And you have these guys who are writing cyber, are underwriting cyber, and it's kind of driving them crazy that they have to jump through these hoops. And that's something else that's exciting. Like when you look at the UKON slide deck that Gene was showing in the boardrooms, it specifically says this is a tool that's going to unite the MSP, the agent, and the carrier. And like you said, all from the nucleus of the customer.
Like bringing all of them under regulated and somewhat objective index, right? Where we're creating a way to understand risk and price risk in a healthy and transparent way. Where it's not specific, but it is appropriate and customized for every customer and every vertical and every size. Because that's what insurance needs to be appropriate for the cyber world, right? And by the way, like cyber is expanding and growing. It has so much complexity. Like, a lot of the really knowledgeable professionals in the insurance market believe that it's not just the growth of one by one customer adoption. They believe that there's a lot more things that are going to move from general liability into cyber. So the growth and complexity of what's covered in cyber is going to get bigger. And so the actual outlook of what the TAM is for cyber in the US is all over the place. It's definitely going to be, 120, 130 billion, but it could be 200 billion. it could be a huge market. And so whenever you have something that's going to cover with so much room in the U.S. market, the U.S. economy, it is a trend. It's a trend, just like AI was. And I remember at the conference there was a panel on yesterday morning. The panel talked about like Halo revenue, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of AI resources to generate revenue for AI, but you can do so many support mechanisms to generate. It's the same thing here. Like, you don't have to go become a registered insurance agent and start selling general liability to your customers to be effective in the insurance supply chain. You just have to understand how your services, which are the literally the seed that starts all of this, like you are as the IT advisor, you are the one that starts this whole process, and you make the whole experience better. You get to benefit from all the services that can be sold to make the underwriting and the product selection and the underwriting the risk better.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we need to change the dialogue to be more effective for our IT advisors, our partners.
And I love it because currently the landscape, and even the way FifthWall's been working with MSPs for the past 3 years, like, it works, but it really only worked with a very specific subset of MSPs,
right,
who say, I am at a point where I am ready to start baking in these types of cyber insurance conversations I need to have, right? So it was asking them to upend a lot of their process and all that kind of stuff. Now, the shift and the dynamic shift that I'm loving is we're opening this up to any MSP who's saying, hey, I want to become the risk advisor for my clients.
Yeah.
And I'm an MSP. I'm a fairly small MSP. I'm struggling to sell because every time I have to have a conversation, they're just seeing dollar signs.
Right.
Well, guess what? This is changing that landscape. It's so different from selling through MSPs.
Absolutely.
And that's something I think that really excites me, because honestly, the selling through MSP model it works, but again, it requires a major lift initially. And this is an opportunity just to unite an industry that needs to be united, or unite multiple industries that need to be united. And it's exciting, man. It's good stuff. So my last question has nothing to do with specifically UKON, but really, I mean, it kind of does, I guess. It's really more of the excitement of moving forward. So like, what's on your mind moving forward? I know UKON is officially launching it at Beyond. Yeah. Right. That's
full
the goal.
GA.
Full GA.
Yeah. To be clear, we are launching a lot of we're going to start launching some live functionality.
Of course.
In the next couple weeks.
Sign up for early access.
Yep. Early access. Will be general availability at Beyond.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of exciting things between now and June. But Beyond will be a big part of that process. So, question though.
Yeah. So, what are your kind of general thoughts moving from xChange to Beyond over the next couple weeks? What's got you excited? What do you as we make that journey of early access and all that good stuff?
Where's
your head at?
Yeah, I think it's really just like at xChange, like partners aren't using it. I'm really excited to have partners. We have used people to consult the partners and the customers for so long, and now we're putting the tech first and becoming a product-led company, going from being a consultative company to a product-led company. Such a big change, and it's so exciting to do that in such a disruptive and transformative way for the industry. I'm really excited to start hearing what the partners are going to be saying and what the reaction is going to be like, and I'm excited to see customers start getting in there and see what the feedback is. Like, we've seen what customers say when you start, when you lead with, some of the financial liability conversation. It changes the dynamic.
It does.
And I'm excited to see what MSPs do with that data and how much stronger the dialogue is.
Yeah. I'm really excited from the business growth side of things. Yeah. Saying, hey, I'm going to be boots on the ground with some of these MSPs, walking them through early access, onboarding them onto the platform. I'm excited to work with Reed and Travis and a couple other people on the agency side too. Hey, how are we going to get agents starting to utilize this, and what's that going to look like? What's that rollout going to play out like? Getting testing done there. Like, it's exciting. I mean, there's so many facets and features here. Yeah. And I personally really am loving that, because I mean, I moved over 2 years ago, I moved over to the MSP channel. And now it's almost like coming full circle, and it's like it's not a channel thing anymore. It's a full a full-on, like, we're just embracing it all.
Absolutely.
It's cool.
Growth mode.
Yeah.
Growth mode.
Growth
Absolutely.
mode.
We're bringing some incredible things to the MSP ecosystem, and the channel company's been an incredible place to do it. They've been really good partners, and xChange has been a really fun event.
Really good. So
Let's dive in.
let's dive in. Scaling the Wall is brought to you by FifthWall Solutions, a cyber insurance wholesaler wholly focused on bridging the gap between cyber insurance and cybersecurity, making it more affordable, accessible, and understandable. If you're an MSP tired of last-minute insurance apps from your clients, or an agent looking for an easier way to write good coverage, make your way over to fifthwallsolutions.com to learn more about what it means to partner. This podcast is written and produced by me, Will Brooks. Find me on LinkedIn. There are a lot of memes to be found, and I hope you'll tune in next time as we continue to scale the wall of cybersecurity together.